we are, and welcome to an irresistible episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast, because we're going to talk about the movie Irresistible, Steve Carell, Rose Byrne, directed by Jon Stewart. But before that, I want to know how my sisters are doing. Becky, how is life in California?
We've made some quarantine upgrades, so I'm feeling pretty good. My husband Vlad built, my husband is, if you don't know who he is, Vlad built a swing set in the backyard, like a massive swing set.
And I see everyone's been praising him, and I know he's a very good carpenter, but is he a good enough carpenter that you'd let your children hang from a freestanding structure that he built?
We have been having this debate actually since he built it, or whether or not it's stable enough. And so we did like a strength test yesterday where he's like, try and knock it over. Tell me if you think it can flip over. And so I, for many minutes, rattled
Should you have been the person?
Were you swinging it? Were you swinging on it though?
Did you not? Oh, I guess you don't look at the pictures I send.
I remember.
There's a picture of
I'm
me
just saying,
swinging.
are you a good test? Because I feel like you up against a 2-year-old. I feel like we need someone stronger to test it out.
Especially Becky's kids are very, very, very strong.
Hefty,
yeah.
It looks like she could take someone down. So
they're just
I'd
like.
worry.
Anyways, it's safe enough.
Okay.
It seems safe enough for their size. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty excited about that.
It's enormous. I've never seen a swing set that large.
Well, it was made by a guy who's
12
7
feet high.
Is it because he's so tall?
Yeah, he made it to scale of his height.
So high.
His height?
It's so high. But it's really nice because Miri,
they'll be able to swing it until college.
Can actually get kind of hard to get her outside now. She's a little bit like over the backyard. And first thing this morning, she was like, outside, I need to get outside.
That's awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Lily, as the keeper of our parents, how are things going?
How are you doing?
Is it rude?
Has mom been able to connect her AirPods to the television?
Guys, buckle your
seatbelt. What else has broken? Did you start that registry I recommended?
No, seriously.
You know, my registry idea where mom comes to visit you create a registry for all the items that you think she's gonna break.
Absolutely. The things
you know when you open your refrigerator, what's on the door? There's like a shelf on the door where you put your milk or something.
Yeah.
We put like old condiments we're ignoring.
Yeah, it's a condiments, baking soda, whipped cream.
Well, I keep my beverages on there, and I keep my cold water. You guys know me with cold water.
What beverages?
That's where I keep my cold water.
What beverages?
Other than we have 7 milks in our house right now. Everybody in this household drinks a different milk. And
you're such a Kardashian.
Yes, exactly. And my carafe of freezing cold water. The entire that comes with the refrigerator. It's built in. It just broke right off. And
it's more about your refrigerator than mom.
Yeah, I mean, did mom do it?
He's like, I feel like they slam things really hard.
We do.
They open things really hard.
I do that.
That's true. I do that. I've gone
they're
into
so rough with stuff.
I've been yelled at by cab drivers for slamming the door.
The door too hard, and then my.
I get into trouble. Hold on, I get into trouble at my house for opening doors too hard.
Okay, so
not just closing them, opening them.
It's a family problem.
Yeah,
and so the other day, all of a sudden, an alarm starts going off in my refrigerator, and Jose's like, "Oh my god, it's just not used to all these people." It's just now we need a new one. He's like, pieces of it are falling off. They're so rough. Anyway, what she pulled the other day, buckle your seatbelts. We are in a house that we rented for a week of vacation. That's where we are now. And there is not great internet, of course. I feel like that's par for the course. And she raised us, so mom was heavily concerned about how we were going to watch movies and stuff like that. And I was just very stressed and busy before leaving, and I forgot the cable that connects the iPad to the TV.
Look, that's unacceptable. You're responsible in your family You're
I
like
know.
Mark
I'm the
Toner.
shy of my family.
Mark Toner, former guest of the show, recently he went on vacation with his family and he was asking me about what movies to watch, and then later he reported back that he couldn't, that he like forgot the cable, and thank goodness his daughter
Oh,
Grace, this is a shout out to you, fixed it. But like I think it is, if you are the steward of your family and you go on vacation without the appropriate tools for
like you
watching
should be sent
shows,
home. You should be sent home.
you have to go back and get them.
Right. And so I just was like mega stressed. It's just something that slipped my brain. And mom was like really furious. She was like, well, I think somebody needs to go home and get it. and and I was like, all right, okay, let's like not make a big deal about this. And so mom and I actually ended up watching Irresistible together on her iPad because I had to watch it for the podcast. But then all of a sudden, she's in the living room of this house. She turns on the TV, guys. Just seriously, guys. She turns on the TV, and she goes, I think I can connect this TV to the internet. And I was like, what? I was like, Mom, come on. And she's like, hold on. It says that there's a home network. If I go into this folder, if I put in the code
So
for
it's
the
like Will
WP
Ferrell in Old
address
School.
key, guys,
Yes.
I was like, what is happening right now? She goes, read me the key off the, the password, Louis, off the box that makes the internet. Read it to me, please. And I read her, I read her the code, the password. She types it in, and she's like, okay, here we go. Go to the App Store, go on Netflix. All right, we're connected to the home network, guys. Guys, I just turned this TV into a smart TV. And I turned to her and I was like, oh my God, is this like how Invasion of the Body Snatchers starts? All of a sudden, elderly people know how to use devices. I was like, what is happening right now? Guys, she turned the TV here into a smart TV. It wasn't like a normal smart TV. I'm very impressed with her.
I firmly believe when people are motivated enough, they will figure these things out.
Just like in Airbender.
Allie will not like turn on the shows like when it's our time to watch shows at night and I come down from my roll in bedtime with the kids.
Jose.
The shows won't be on. And I'm like, you couldn't.
Why can't they just cue it up? Why can't they cue it up so when you get there, you can hit the ground? You don't have to waste
and then it's always, I don't know, what is it on Netflix or Amazon?
Like, that's your job.
If we put Jose, Vlad, and Allie alone in a vacation house together,
there'll be no shows.
Books the whole time.
No, because
no shows.
But here's the thing. What I tell Allie is act like there's an episode of Grey's Anatomy on the other side. Because when there's Grey's Anatomy involved, Allie's like MacGyver. Allie's like MacGyver. Suddenly
hooking up the iPad to the elliptical.
But when it's anyways, okay. So let's get into.
I just feel like you guys should be really proud of Mom.
I'm very proud of Mom. Let's get into our movie of the week. I like that we've been watching the same stuff lately. That's a lot of fun. Irresistible. I don't really know who released this movie because I had to pay like a lot of money.
Also, who came up with this title?
Well, I didn't get the title until the ending when they showed the title and then they put in bold red resist.
Yeah.
Okay, so call the movie Resist.
Allie's word on that was that she was like, wow, they really shoehorned that like a square peg in a round hole. To me, the title falls along the lines of a lot of these Netflix titles where they just like pick a word out of the hat. Although I will say the movie, for anyone who hasn't seen it, by the way, there will be spoilers. So just accept that. Irresistible is about a Democratic strategist who is in Washington, D.C., your typical elite, type character. And he is convinced that this viral video of a former Marine speaking up for somewhat liberal concepts is a cause he should get behind because this could be the future of the Democratic Party. And he goes and he brings all
in a red state,
and he brings in Wisconsin
or a swing state,
a swing state, and he brings all of his fancy consultants and everything to this town. My take on the title of Irresistible is that as the movie reveals, there's a big twist at the end of the movie that, of course, this was all a setup to get him and the other people to come and spend their money in the town. And that the irresistible part is they knew that this strategist from this elite area couldn't resist the bait of
That
a
makes sense.
What did you think it was, Becky? The bar food in the town?
I don't. It
no, but
literally
Allie
didn't make
was
sense
similar.
to me.
But
I
to
was
me,
like,
it was
listen,
that because
You can't.
he couldn't
Yeah.
resist being patronizing and condescending, and also the opportunity of using these people, and so they got him on the hook. And then later you find out, of course, they the town, both the Republicans and the Democrats, manufactured this entire thing so that the consultants would come and spend all the advertising money on their town, for which they end up like making the town into a
Well, and
booming.
no, it's the super
and the
PAC
super
money.
PACs.
They
Super
create the
PAC money.
super
Super PAC
PACs for
money.
the money, which the town then just reallocates to the
Takes.
town instead of the campaigns.
Yeah. So what were your reactions generally to the film as a movie, and also the twist as part of that? Lil.
I thought it was adorable. Good for you, Jon Stewart. Like, it was cute, and it didn't have to be a political, like, accurate portrayal of anything. I got his point. You know, he makes an interesting point. It was funny and, cute enough, and like, it's rare to see like a delightful political movie. I don't know. I didn't get too serious about it,
I think
even though
people
it's
like
Jon Stewart.
the reactions, I think, probably have something to do with the fact that it is Jon Stewart. People are
Yeah,
expecting
people wanted
him.
something more cynical because it's Jon Stewart or something,
And
or
less maybe obvious or silly, because
it felt
it's
to
my,
me
like,
like a spoonful of sugar, which is he's making a point about money in politics and how that money would
right,
be better spent, but he's doing it in
or just how corrupt the money makes the
right,
politics.
and it's or no, I think the point is that like how it could be better spent. And instead of spending $50
Right.
million on a campaign, you could put $50 million into a dying town and then and
For
revitalize,
education or
or
right.
education and things like that.
Or
So
didn't
I
he say
think
they spent
infrastructure, like all
45
these things
million on this
on
like
a
small
small town,
mayoral race?
right? And but so he's making that point, but he's doing it in a truly like lighthearted way. And I agree. I think if there's any criticism for the film, it's because people would expect Jon Stewart to make that criticism in maybe a more cynical way instead of what's actually somewhat, you know, optimistic, being like, hey guys, I don't know, maybe it's not optimistic, but it's at least light in a lighthearted, more in a lighter way.
So I take a slightly different approach, but overall I really enjoyed it. I thought it makes its point. I thought with the twist at the end, it turns out to be a smarter movie. Like, there are certain things in the movie that don't make a ton of sense without that twist. Like, there's times where Steve Carell's character and Rose Byrne's character are yelling at each other in the inn and giving away how badly they would be, like how the low opinions they have of the intelligence of the people in the town by the way they talk to them. So the only way it makes sense in the end is that those people were setting them up. And because otherwise their behavior was actually like pretty terrible and transparent, the way they behaved in the town. I think that's slightly unrealistic because as sort of as unlikable and sort of as insensitive those people could be, that's an exaggeration of probably how they behave. But it's also a movie, right? Like, this is the point we always make when we talk about movies, right? A documentary can be a documentary. This is a movie, and the movie is making a point. I also really liked that that it was an equal indictment of not equal, but it was an indictment of all of the political parties. This wasn't Jon Stewart taking a shot at Democrat versus Republican, although
Though he did take a hilarious shot at Fox News.
Yeah, he took a shot at Fox News and 24-hour news, and he put all of the jokes about Democrats and Republicans in the movie, but really his big point was about the money and the super PACs in this longer issue. I think that, and maybe I'm being unfair to Jon Stewart here, one of my issues with it was he makes the point, but I often feel like Jon Stewart makes these points and then falls short of actually making a real case as to like what should be done or could be done. He implies it, I guess, that money could go to towns or to infrastructure to any one of these things. But maybe I'm also being unfair to Jon Stewart by saying that, oh, because you're Jon Stewart, you have to make that point. When in the reality is, as a movie on its own, it's fine. When I compare it to other political movies, there's a political movie that Tim Robbins made in the 90s called Bob Roberts. That is a must watch. And it is a much cynical, darker movie, but I think is also a better, stronger, edgier movie. That being said, I don't.
Right.
I might be
Yeah.
being unfair by comparing the two because they are. I think ultimately, after I've reflected on it, they promise different things.
Yeah, I think in the end, this is. I think there are parts of I think the movie sometimes gets a bit confused, and that was an article that you shared, Shai, that was like it sometimes we didn't seem 100% sure what kind of movie it was supposed to be, but overall, I think it's supposed to be a comedy, more
even so,
lighthearted
it's very
comedy.
clear that Rose Byrne, Faith Brewster character, is supposed to be a villain. But what's confusing about Steve Carell's character, Gary, is that it's unclear how much of what he's doing is actually sincere, how much of it he believes, how much of it is just competitiveness and about winning. And he kind of wavers back and forth on that, which I guess
He's
makes
sincere
which I guess would make for a complex character, this idea that at moments it's about competitiveness and at moments it's about at moments he really is being sincere. But for some reason there was like a depth that was missing to the character. So I think in that sense it's like, was it purely supposed to be, this lighter, less complex story, or was there supposed to be more depth that was missing in a way? Yeah,
because he is sincere, and in the end he obviously has a good intentions, because even though he's using them, it's for the greater good of like trying to help this guy win so that the Democratic Party could have a bigger stance out there, and that's overall a good thing. But then he's like horrible to the people, and you're like, wait, are you not a nice person?
Horrible, though.
I think that's a good
talks
comment,
down
though.
to them.
Well, the whole idea of he's condescending to them, but they're condescending back to him with like the butt in a burger shtick.
Yeah, but I do think the point there's a big point there about how the sort of coastal elite treat the sort of middle of the country, that the idea that they come, you come every 4 years. And
that was a really good point.
And that he tries to resist. He tries to resist being condescending and patronizing, but his character like can't help it, and I think that's the point. He's just that. I think that's the point of him. I thought he gave a great performance. I think Steve Carell, in our house, Steve Carell's on fire right now. Allie loves the silver fox sort of like middle-aged, handsome Steve Carell that she sees in
Who doesn't?
Wars. And I would say
best.
that it's kind of confusing to her because he's not Michael Scott, but I would say Steve Carell going on Allie's top list, along with Terrence Howard, Charlie Hunnam, and David Tennant from Broadchurch.
Wow.
Yes, but this version of Steve Carell, the like middle-aged, like man, not like his midlife crisis, Little Miss Sunshine Steve Carell, like Crazy Stupid Love Steve Carell, but this like adult man Steve Carell.
Well, I mean, in the end of the day, the cast is amazing. Like Jon Stewart pulled together a fantastic cast.
Yeah, all the great cast. Parts were fantastic.
And Rose Byrne is just a delight. Like she's so funny and leans into it so well.
I feel like I wanted more. Like I didn't have enough Rose Byrne in this movie. I did not have enough of her shtick.
Their dynamic was hilarious.
When she's like being interviewed and she's like, "Oh, I'm from here. I'm from Deer Lakin. This is where I grew up."
And he's like, "No, you're not." And he's like, "Oh, damn it! Now it's the truth. It just is truth now." That's great.
I think the movie, the way it's marketed, leads you to believe that it's a rom-com of the Democrat and the Republican strategist. Like the poster very much looks like that, and that's why you sort of there's a disconnect, there's a dissonance with how much Rose Byrne is actually part of the movie.
Right.
But if you don't know that going in, then it's a little bit. If you don't look at that poster itself looks like it should be like Democrat and Republican come to small town and fall in love. That's what it evokes, but in reality, that's really not what the movie's about. And I think that is part of what plays into the confusing. Rose Byrne was delightful in this movie. And Mackenzie Davis, who I didn't love in the Terminator movie, I thought she was great in this.
But I feel like
No, she's
everyone
pretty
had a
good.
small part. I feel like she had like no lines. Like, who was speaking in this movie? Was it just Steve Carell?
No.
Like,
I guess you're right, because Chris Cooper, who's such a powerhouse actor,
he has
also
like
has a
7
pretty
lines in
small
the whole
part.
movie. I
He
think
is
maybe
really
that's
good,
what it
though.
was. Like, there was so much movie, but no one was in it.
Except for Steve Carell, I guess.
Steve Carell. Okay, favorite scene.
Oh, right.
favorite
Also,
scene.
you have Topher Grace and Natasha Lyonne.
Leon, like amazing.
Right.
I love a
And
good use
they
of Topher
were
Grace.
expertly cast and played
Yes.
those roles beautifully.
Perfectly.
But I also kind of wanted more.
I
was
wanted
like,
some. It was
yeah.
like
An hour and 45-minute movie. I actually didn't want more of it.
No, not more of the movie. I wanted more of them.
That's a
Like,
different movie. though.
right.
that's a different
Yeah.
movie.
That's
that is,
a
I
Veep.
would, I know.
Right.
That's the thing is that it's not. This is not
The
a Veep.
casting was
Wait,
great.
wait. Favorite. Honestly, my favorite scene is at the beginning when when Carell is preparing for the trip to Deerlocken, and he's talking with his assistants about the travel, the car and the catering, and it's like, no frills, no. This is to be really simple. No, but do you know about the catering situation? Like that is like the epitome
and he's like,
of like
but if
everyone
there's like
in
a Bose like sound upgrade
like
for the car,
I can't
like
tell
I'll
you
take it.
in my career, in my life, when I have assisted people, how many times I have had that conversation where someone wants to pretend to be humble
Really
and
low
simple,
maintenance. I'm really
but
low maintenance. I don't want a lot
yeah,
of stuff.
I don't want all
And
this
then
stuff.
anything that isn't what they want,
Yes.
light you on fire.
Yeah.
Right. But I will take the caprese salad with the mozzarella ball.
On my private plane. Like the epitome. I mean, Jon Stewart nailed that. If he seems like, to me, I like
politics. That's for
no, that's everything.
No,
it's
that's
everywhere. It's everything. And so I at least felt that he was being extremely self-aware with that scene, and I appreciated it.
Those are great. Those are great details. So who are your MVPs of the movie?
That lady at the bakery. I love her.
So funny.
Oh my god, she was so
the way
funny.
she kept getting the coffee wrong every time.
She just didn't even care. She didn't even care what his order was.
Well, and that was part of the whole setup too. In the end, she was fully aware. So I thought that was funny. I also loved when he was constantly doing inappropriate things in front of that lady Dot.
That was a great chick.
That was great.
Yeah.
And also how
when he eats the pastry.
And everybody knew him right away. Like it was all such a great. Like when you look back at it and you realize that the whole thing was a setup, it worked. I think it works really, really well. I would say so. My MVP. I mean, let's say we're not talking about the main, like the top caliber or top caliber stars, meaning Steve Carell, Rose Byrne, Chris Cooper. These are all like major people. In fact, 2 out of 3 nominated for Oscars. Right. I really liked the actor Brent Sexton, who played the Mayor Braun.
Oh yeah, he was
great. He was in, and I had to look this up because I couldn't remember it. He's in Shameless. He plays that the uncle or the cousin that tries to take the house from them. And I thought I thought he gave a really nice performance as this local political hack. But then there's the scene where Mackenzie Davis comes and meets him at the house, and he's
right.
so
Well, that's when the
warm,
reveal is,
and then they have the big reveal. And I think that was a really important performance to make this whole movie work. Like that had to really sell, and I think he was a big part of it. And I don't think he's someone that someone's going to look at this movie and be like, oh, but when I think of Dad and I think of his love of character actors, to me Brent Sexton was a real highlight of this movie. To me, that was part of getting the fabric and the details right that made this movie enjoyable and not phoned in.
Yeah, good call.
How about you?
Lily said the coffee shop lady.
Oh, the coffee shop lady. All right, Becky.
I really loved Natasha Lyonne in there. I thought that the way she played the character was really, really funny. And it also was driving home the reality of how politics work behind the scenes.
Oh, you're
That
so right.
and that's really important to understanding this drive of money and competitiveness and and how like inhuman the whole process is, and the whole shtick with sending the flyers to the cluster of single women about
Us
abortion
single
rights,
women.
but it's a bunch of nuns, which is why they're single women. Like that, there's no there's like no humanity in this process. It's just about numbers and winning, and it's not about understanding people. And I thought like her character portrayed that well, and she was really, really funny. So it took something that's very harsh and serious, and she did it in just a really fun way. Yeah, and she's just a really funny addition.
That tension between the different views of
The
how
polling
to
versus the
polling versus
internet
Analytics.
analytics.
That was fun. That was really fun.
Mhm.
I also got to give this movie a shout out because they referenced cheese curds and poutine. So
They
any
did.
movie where there's
They
a poutine
did.
reference,
That was a
They
great
did.
reference.
They did.
So I don't know if does anyone have any closing
And
thoughts?
Rose Byrne's like, how is the milk that you skim off? Like the crap you skim off milk, a food here. How is that a food? That's the best.
So if there's no other additional thoughts, so I would say this is to me was a Rent. This is to me was like a high
Yeah.
end Rent.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like I don't think it should in no way be panned. That's ridiculous. And I think people need to calm down. While we still hold some standards for Netflix action movies, because honestly, those have been a pile of shit.
Those are terrible.
At the same time, you know what? The comedies or this kind of political fun comedy, I'm sorry, like beggars can't be choosers. I feel like that was fine.
Yeah, my only closing
Movie's fine.
comment
Everybody
is
calm down.
give me more Rose Byrne. She's so funny. I feel like her comedic chops are underrated. She's hilarious. And
Yes,
that was
agreed.
like a delight to watch her.
In general, more Rose Byrne.
Yeah,
I think
just
it's
in
just good.
general.
And she's really, I think she's versatile, and she does comedy so well. But she also, I think, can in that movie, Instant Family, really showed you what a great dramatic actor she can be as well. I really, so I will say this, I don't really know who this released under. I think this maybe was a movie that was supposed to be in theaters and then just got released on demand. I don't know if it's one particular company, but it was for Rent. So I guess this was supposed to be a theatrical release, but this was good. But I put it as a high end Rent. The Politician is another political thing. That show is back. We all watched some or part of the opening of the new season, which flashes forward a few years. And what's his name? Peyton Hobart is running for state senate, and his mother is now running for governor of California, played by
Is
Gwyneth
Gwyneth
Paltrow.
Paltrow back?
Yeah, she's
She's
running
back
for
in
governor
season
of
2?
California. She's
Yes,
pretty
I
funny.
didn't get to see the episode. That's awesome.
Yes, Becky, you will laugh so hard about her running in California.
Oh, the California stuff, I think
You
you
live
would get if you're from California, because
Yeah.
there's some
Alright, I
funny
can't
stuff
wait.
back. I thought it was fine. This show is a show that for me takes a while to get going for me. Like last time, it wasn't until the 7th episode, and then I was like, oh, okay, it's brilliant. So I feel similarly with the opening of the
Really?
second
I feel like
season.
it hits the ground running.
It does, but I'm still not. I don't know. We'll see. It does, but we'll see. I think though, Judith Light, Bette Midler, fantastic. It's great to see them in the show. I think, and doing these kind of fun, over the top performances. I'm glad that they're in a show. I'd like to see them. The last thing I saw Judith Light in was in Ugly Betty, which I haven't. No, Ugly Betty, which I haven't finished yet, where she plays the mother. Right, she plays the mother who kind of comes.
She was in Transparent.
I didn't watch Transparent.
Last thing I saw was she was in Transparent, but she's like 1,000 times better in this.
She's really good.
Transparent.
Yeah.
So that's a cool show. I think it's like, to me it's on the it's a really high quality show, whereas like Netflix's movies have been garbage. I think a lot of their shows have been amazing. And again, their comedies are getting better and better and better.
I also think there's a lot of really funny yet important things about this show, like that you don't see on other shows, which is what we've talked about when we first talked about it. And what you might not get with Gary and Irresistible as like a, you know, whatever political comedy, you get with all the characters here. They're very complex, and some are evil and some are good, and some are trying to do good but might have to do evil because it's politics, and all of that conversation is there, but in multiple layers. And
Totally.
I think that it's, you know, and at the same time, it's really funny. There's a whole like Nancy Meyers bit in the first, I think it's the first episode, yeah, about Nancy Meyers movies and Bette Midler and stuff. And it's just, the fact that they have these two powerhouse women that are acting in this season, Bette Midler and Judith Light, you know, they are using, you know, they're Bette Midler. I mean, like, when is Bette Midler not a joy to watch?
True.
Right.
She's
And
always
so
great.
More Bette Midler.
she's fantastic. And she's, you know, everybody holds their own in this show. So it's not like the Bette Midler show. She's a side character, and yet, you know, every scene that she's in, she pretty much steals. But the people that are, you know, just playing up against her, which a lot of the time is Lucy Boynton from Bohemian Rhapsody.
She does
she's
a nice job
fantastic.
in those scenes. They're a really good
Yeah.
contrast. I didn't expect that to be the relationship vector, but I like that a lot. I was a little bummed, and this is the first episode that it took half an episode for her to already be against Peyton again. And so I don't like when shows sort of revert back to the same old shtick. But
Patterns.
yeah. But, you know, we'll see. I'm only, you know, 2/3 of the first episode in. Okay,
but I enjoy it. I find it's different, and
well,
that's appreciative.
Let's talk about what people have been watching. Lil, what else have you been watching?
We watched, I don't know if you guys have this on your Netflix, your non-communist Netflix. We watched a movie on Spanish Netflix that is definitely not an American-made movie. It's like for sure a bit like pro Castro. And it's Penelope Cruz, Edgar Ramirez, who's from the new Point Break, that like newer Point Break that they made. That guy, Gael Garcia Bernal, the guy from Narcos, Wagner, I forget his last name. So like a bunch of really good actors in this movie about a secret network of spies from Cuba, true story, sent to the U.S.
Is this the WASP network? Because you're making me guess what this movie is. It is available.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Was it cool?
It's interesting. I find it interesting that it's available in the U.S. I think, you know, it could have been much better. I don't think it's a great movie. I think it's really interesting though. The way the movie is, like, the story is told, it unfolds in a really strange way. You know, as the choices of the director and the writer, you know, he's the same person, director, writer. It's funny how it's like, it's just, the way the onion is being peeled back is a bit disjointed. But the acting is great, and if you're interested in politics and you're interested in spies and Cuba and the United States, then by all means, it's a cool movie. It's better than like the action movies that are out there because it's, you know, based on some true stuff. But it's 2 hours, so, you know, it could have been a half hour shorter. But we watched that, and that was, you know, interesting because Mom obviously is from there, and she mostly spent the time watching it saying whose accent was good and whose accent was bad.
It's one of the most fun things to do with Mom when you watch.
Dad was also like, is she doing a good job? Is he doing a good job? So that was pretty fun. And then what else have we been watching? Not too much else because
Transformers Rescue Bots Academy.
Right. Thanks to Shy. And yeah, we just got Mom just got the TV to work, so we'll see what else is up.
Watching tons of stuff now.
Beck, what are you up to?
I am partway through season 4 of Legends of Korra. I have to say season 3 and 4 are really, really good. Really great. It's worth getting through 1 and 2, 4, 3, and 4, because by the time you're in season 4, they've really honed in on who the great characters are with super interesting stories, and it's all kind of coming together. So I'm very much into that. That's I'm watching that and whatever homework assignments you guys give me.
Okay. That's great. Okay, so I am consuming a whole bunch of different things. We, based on Lily's recommendation from last week, we started The Sinner. We love a good murdery show, murder mystery show in our house, and we picked up we watched 4 or 5 episodes in a row of that show, and then we only took a break because I had to watch Irresistible and Politician, but I can't wait to get back to it. I think Bill Pullman's performance is awesome in it.
It makes me happy. They give you like a fun summer.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of
show.
beach reading. It was like picking up one of those mystery novels that you read on the beach.
If you read.
Yeah, but that's what it feels like.
How do you know it's the equivalent if you don't read? Are you just assuming?
I'm assuming it's like a paperback. I don't know.
Okay.
But I read, and I'm telling you, you're right on the spot.
And I
Exactly.
think the performances are really good. Jessica Biel's really good, and I like the whole down and out detective thing. It scratches the combination of my Bosch itch and also Broadchurch, but it's not nearly as good as either of those. But it's solid. So if people are looking for a good mystery,
and Shai, I think you made a good
very
point
murdery
to me about how it's nice sometimes, and it has to be done in a particular way, where you don't really need to care that it's more than one season with these characters. Bill Pullman is consistent. He's in all the seasons, but that this is a one-off story.
Yeah, I'm okay with an anthology of this guy solving mysteries. That's fine for me. Not every show. If a show
You
is
have to
about
be invested in every
mystery,
single character all the
exactly.
time.
Sometimes it's actually liberating, and so for me,
right,
that's good. I don't want a cliffhanger. I just want them to solve the mystery. Okay, and let's have a new case.
Right.
I don't need a cliffhanger for every show. Sometimes I feel like Friends did a cliffhanger in the 90s, and ever since then, everyone has to end every season on a cliffhanger.
This is true.
Nuts. I've been trying to watch some older movies. I watched this old Western called The Professionals with Lee Marvin and Burt Lancaster. It's got the Magnificent Seven kind of feel. It always, I miss Dad. And to me, watching those movies makes me think of the kind of movie Dad and I would sit down to watch, but you get Dad. And so I've been trying to watch some of these old Westerns. I started The Wild Bunch. I haven't finished that yet. So I think they're fun movies to watch with Dad. But The Professionals, I have to say, is not a movie I'd ever heard of. You always hear about The Magnificent Seven, but I thought The Professionals was really fun and really, really good acting and had some fun, action. Again, this is a movie that's, in a time capsule, right? You have to take it for what it is. It's a movie made, 40, 50 years ago. But I really enjoyed it. And it's a movie I kind of wish I had sat down and watched with Dad. I watched this DC animated movie, Superman Red Sun, that's available on, I think it's DC Universe that it's available on. And Beck, you'll find this one really interesting. I find the DC animated movies, by the way, are all fantastic. They're all 1,000 times better than their real life movies. This movie it's taken from a book that was written. It imagines an alternative history where Superman landed in Ukraine in the Soviet Union instead of America. Whoa. And how the world would have developed with Superman being a Soviet icon and Lex Luthor being the icon of capitalism in the United States. And it doesn't make any of it black and white. It makes a lot of it very, very gray as to who's good and who's bad and what decisions Superman would have made had he been raised essentially by Stalin. Wow. But also he rejects a lot of Stalin's ways. But makes his own mistakes. I thought it was really interesting. It's like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. Worth a watch, and I think the animation is pretty good. So, Beck, I would love to know if you and Vlad ever have a chance to watch that. I'd love to know what Vlad thinks about it.
All right, cool.
On the animation front, I started the Clone Wars Season 7 because Josh won't shut up about making me watch it. And first episode was very cool. It's just great to be back in that universe. And David Filoni, who is one of the...
I can tell you're on vacation this week.
Oh my God, you've been talking for 4 minutes about what you've been watching.
What you watched.
On the producer...
Time that I even have to watch something.
Becky, Filoni worked on Airbender. So there's a connection between what is considered one of the great recent animated things in the Clone Wars and Avatar. We watched Eurovision with the kids. And right before
did a whole episode
but
on
I texted you.
I know. Hold on a second. I want to tell the story.
And I literally was like, careful with this part. Don't show them burnt Demi Lovato. You will regret this. Remember, you thought this was like a fun movie, but this will scare your girls.
Right. So the movie
2 seconds later.
So I set up the movie, and this is not one of those situations where I walked into it. Allie and I both were like, "This was such a fun, heartwarming movie. It's like Pitch Perfect," and we've been playing the soundtrack for the kids.
Nobody gets
nonstop.
blown up in Pitch Perfect, though.
So Lily warned me. She said, "Look, be careful. There's the ghost of Demi Lovato," and I was like, "She wasn't that scary. It was funny." So there's a scene early on where
The
all
elves
of the
murdering people is the least scary part
Well,
of
my
this
younger
movie.
daughter thought the elves murdering people was the funniest thing in the whole movie. But
'Cause it is.
but the moment that the entire Icelandic like leading artists are
Singing.
blown up on the bus and the hand
The
comes
boat.
No, on the
flying
boat.
on the boat, my
He's seen it twice.
children, particularly my older, oh no, I've seen it for a third time now. My children were like weeping. They were so upset. What kind of movie is this? I can't believe you watched it. Did all those people really die? Like, and the arm comes flying off, and they kind of couldn't get past that part. The exact quote from one of my kids was, "This will haunt me for decades. Please turn this movie off." Those were all things that were said, and then anyways, it was just. But that being said, the movie is awesome. And I loved it the second time. I upgraded it to 4 stars on my letterbox. I changed it. This is a buy. And then today, I just watched the music scenes with my younger child, promising her I wouldn't show the ghost, which was Demi Lovato. And after she believed me, I wouldn't show her the ghost, because granted, with my history with the Neverending Story, my kids
You can't do not believe you.
But I just adore this movie, and I could watch it over and over again. And Rachel McAdams is just so incredibly lovable in it. So that's what I've got. All right. Becky, where can people follow you?
At Paper BK Princess on Twitter and Letterboxd.
Lily, where can people follow you?
I was going to say the same thing, but that's not true.
Yeah, at Paper BK.
GGK Gomez. Chi K Gomez, CHI, on Letterboxd and Twitter.
And you can follow me at Pancake for Table. Why are you doing that?
Because I just like I know it off by heart.
On Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. And you can follow all the Friday Night Movie shenanigans at Friday Night Movie on Twitter and Instagram. I'm muting you. You're muted. That's it. I'm talking now. No one can hear you.
And it warms my heart. It's
and
like
you can
I don't know. It's like knowing the words to a song.
You can go to the website at FridayNightMoviePod.com. Our family are supporters of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and Equal Justice Initiative. So if you are looking to take action and do something anti-racist, please look at those organizations. Those are ones that we do as our family. Please look into their work. And if you are in sync with it, please donate. And last but not least, our theme music is by What Does It Eat? That will kick in. And you can check out on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere What Does It Eat's latest release, Sidecar, which is a 16-minute song cycle tribute to 1980s and 90s TV characters. And I think we are wrapped up. Love you guys. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you.
I mean, assuming you don't have more shows you want to tell us about that you've watched.
It's okay. You watched a lot of stuff.
Wow, and you only got through 3/4 of the first episode of The Politician.
I fell asleep.
Well,
That's because the night
Like,
before
I
my
really
kids were
can't
up
wait
all
for you
night
to
with
watch
nightmares
it.
because of Eurovision.
well, I guess we've all learned a lesson.